Brothers, welcome back to Territorial and the long awaited, much requested tutorial. A lot of you have been asking for this for a long time. There's been a big uptick of people watching Territorial and asking a lot of the same questions. So I thought I'd take this time to explain a lot of the game to you. However, the game is a lot like chess, where a lot of it is decision based and experience based. So I can give you guiding principles, but ultimately, it's up to you to take those and learn how to play the game for yourself. There's never going to be hard and fast rules for anything, which makes doing a tutorial like this very tough. But let's go ahead and get you started with a lot of the information you're going to need to know right away. Now, right here is where you enter your name. Everybody knows that. If you want to play along for a clan, all you got to do is add brackets, whatever the clan is, to the name. Now, if you want to join the Corgi clan, we stream every day besides Sunday, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time, US. Now, if you want to join a different clan, there's a lot of them over here. If you click on top clan right here, you can see a lot of the other clans will have their Discord links in there. You can check those out as well. My Discord is in the link down below. Feel free to check that out. It has a lot of great resources, especially for new players. Now, starting off, a couple things you're going to want to do right away is go to game menu, settings, and this is obviously where your settings are. If you need the font size a little bit bigger, this will help you out a lot. But most importantly, you want to click place balance above. What this does is it places a player's troop count above their name and makes the font bigger. Knowing what kind of fight you're going to be engaging in is the most important thing to know in this game. If you miss a full send because you can't see it, that's obviously going to be very detrimental to your chances of winning the game. So right away, that's the number one thing that a lot of people ask for, and you absolutely need that right away. So when loading up into multiplayer, you're going to face a screen like this. I've gone ahead and snipped it just so we can pause the screen and take a look at everything. Now, there are different icons in each of these maps here that are going to indicate different things to you. So when you see a pie chart with different colors, this is going to indicate a team game. So you're going to be assigned a random role on a team. Now, if you're playing with a clan tag, you're going to be placed on the team of your clan up until that clan reaches 50% of the total players in the game. Then it will take the last players who joined in that clan and put them on a different team to make things fair. Now, you may be thinking, I joined this 17 game, but when I start, it goes down to 2. If there are too many players on one clan tag, the game will condense things down to try and make it fair prior to then kicking people over to another team from that clan. So that's what happens there. Now, you can see this is a 17 game. This is a 1v1, green versus red. Now, the next type of game mode to talk about is the sword and the crown games. These are both free-for-alls, 1v-alls. So you can see the player count down here is going to tell you how much you're going to join. It's going to be you versus all of those people. Now, in a crown game, you're allowed to full send. Full send is the act of setting your attack bar up to 100% and using all of your troops to attack one person all at once. It's typically used as a, I'm going down, so I'm going to try and take someone out with me along the way. Whereas sword game is restricted. Once you go above 30%, you can try and send that much to attack, but the game is going to kind of blunt that and stop you from sending all of your troops out. So they play a little bit differently on that aspect. Now, when you see a game with a skull right here, this indicates a zombie game mode. So every player that joins is going to be all on the same team, and you're going to face down a little bit harder bots. It used to be very challenging and in kind of an exciting game mode, but it's been nerfed a couple times, so I don't play it that much. The next icon is going to be this medal right here, which indicates a 1v1. So regardless of how many players join this, it's going to whittle it down to a 1v1, and then your points go towards your elo. You can see your elo over here once you go to best 1v1 players. Sometimes this happens. You can see you start accumulating points. You get more points for facing someone that is a higher rank than you. This is not necessarily a game mode that I enjoy, so I don't know a lot about it. It's also had some drama in the past of cheating and boosting, but I think there are safeguards in place now. I'm not 100% sure. Again, I don't play it very much, but that's kind of what that game mode means. Now, quickly talking about clans. Clans will accumulate points based off the games they win. You can see OG has 28, we have 26. This will probably change when we stream tomorrow. It kind of fluctuates back and forth. Now, how clans earn points is by winning games. You can see that this game has 59 players in it, so the winning team would get 59 points added to their total. Now, you can notice this bar over here says next contest is going to be in 12 minutes and 37 seconds. The contest will appear at the 0, 15, 30, and 45 minute mark of every hour. Now, the 0, 15, and 45 will be teams battles, and those will be double the points, so they'll be very competitive games. So let's say this game right here has 20 players in it. If it was a contest, it would, instead of giving 20 points, give 40 points to the winning team. Now, the 30-minute contest is a little bit different. That's a free-for-all contest. Those points don't go anywhere. It's just a slightly more competitive free-for-all. Now, when loading into a game, you have a choice that has a large impact of your chances of winning the game, which is where do you spawn. Now, typically you want to spawn towards the outsides, looking for places that have these big gaps with no bots. Now, the counter to that is I typically would look at this spot and say, I don't want to go here. I want to go over here. And the reason why that is, if you find like a Goldilocks type spot right there, then there's going to be more than one player that goes down there. And if this land is split between 3 players, it's not better than this. So people are going to look here first and ignore this. Whereas if you go here first, typically other players will not then come here, and you have a good chance of grabbing this spot. And players over here who kind of stick it out will be fighting themselves and be angered at each other for, ruining their spot. And then you can quickly come in and take them all out. Now, the reason you don't want to spawn in the middle is because you can't as effectively control your border management, aka how many people do you border. So if you're in the middle, even if you get off to a good start, let's say you're bordering 8 people. Well, it only takes 1 out of those 8 people to say, I'm going to attack you, and you'd be surprised how quickly the other 7 will join in, thus you lose the game. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when picking a starting location is, do I have access to other lands? Can I benefit if there is a full send? Can I benefit if someone's getting dogpiled on? So for that reason, you kind of want to avoid areas that don't provide that initial jump off, or you delay your chances of getting involved anywhere. So therefore, I kind of rule out this region of any islands at all. For that reason of, let's say there's a player in Quebec who full sends down. Well, I got to send a boat all the way down here. So I'm probably going to be the 3rd player, even though I reacted the fastest, to actually start getting any of that land. So it vastly decreases your chances of winning the game. So my favorite spots on North America is very much in this region of Mexico. It's very easy to push down into Mexico and then still have access to a lot of weaker players over here. The Southeast has been a tried and true gem for me, and Alaska is the best spot in the game, but the best spot typically brings a lot of players. The secret's out. People know about Alaska, so it makes it a little bit more competitive, but if it's not occupied, it's an amazing spot. Now, these are my opinions. This game is very diversified in where people will say is the best spot, but I think universally it's agreed that islands are typically not a good starting location. Now, to kind of highlight that point a little bit more, we're going to take a look at the world map. So following our principles of where do we have access to the most land, what can we get the most land from, and benefit from our neighbors' mistakes, Asia is the best place in the map. You have access to a gigantic chunk of land over here, and you can get off to a really good start. Whereas Australia and Antarctica, people do win from down here, but that is highly luck-based, because look how much time it's going to take to boat all the way to Africa or all the way to Asia. By the time that you get over here, you're probably going to be missing a lot of opportunities, and it's not necessarily a great spot. Now, world map is a little bit different, as the middle is much better to go into. Africa is probably my 2nd favorite starting location. And you may be saying, Corgi, you just said the middle is a bad spot to go into. Well, we just talked about how long it takes for people to boat into you, and it's a lot easier to defend those boats from this distance, so therefore you can get off to a better start, and you have access to a lot of Asia. Now, starting off in the world, my favorite spots is this spot over here in northern Russia. If there's less than 5 players, I will start over here in North America. If there's less than 3 players, I might go into South America. And then this is kind of my bread and butter, Egypt, Sudan area. But the best spot I have by far is this spot right here, kind of where Moscow is in real life. And the reason why this spot is truly amazing is you're going to run into a lot of players who are role-playing in Europe, who are going to be very split and not very strong, where you can get a large section of Eastern Europe and then push into Western Europe, taking over this entire region, playing boat defense, and then pushing over into Asia with a lot of strength. Now, here's the last example we're going to do about selecting your spawn location, and we're going to revisit this map when we talk about some higher end strategies towards the later end of the video. But as you can see, following our principles of going on the edges and having access to a lot of land, some regions immediately stand out. The top left is really good. Now, the problem with the top left on this map is typically if you don't win it quickly, you're going to stalemate with everyone over here. Everyone's going to get big and be kind of relatively the same size. But if you can grab that land early, you have a really good shot of winning the game. One little trick I like to do is when you start up the game, this is going to be what you're looking at over here. Now you can see that this box, the leaderboard, is blocking this corner over here. So if you can quickly snipe a little bit of area over here, you have a good chance of being the first one there and chasing away other players. Now, this being a little bit more competitive area of the map, there's going to be often times where a player will immediately go on there or a group of players will immediately go where you go. I highly recommend you hold and you don't move. There's going to be a green timer over here signaling when the game is going to start. And if it's kind of a game of chicken, but typically players will move away, especially if they came there second and or just don't think it's worth it to fight it. Now, if you start the game and both of you didn't move, the best thing you can do is to not attack each other. And the reason for that being is you may be able to win the battle against that player, but you're going to lose the war because the amount of time and resources it's going to take down that player is going to drastically decrease your chances of winning the game and being able to fight in the next battle with the next player who's going to see you as a tasty treat. So my favorite spots on this map is actually down here in this corner, which we're going to revisit again. Up here in this top left. Sometimes over here, it's really tough to kind of win from here because there's not a lot of land access. You're very much limited by this C right here. The middle is going to be impossible to win from. Sometimes you can win from Turkey, but the best bets on this map is going to be top left and bottom right. Now we're going to be playing around with a video that I had previously uploaded. I'm going to be playing as Maverick in this one. I'm going to be walking you through kind of the beginning stages of the game, what's important and how to expand. So first things off, you can see that I'm right here. I'm going to move backwards a little bit. And the reason why I'm moving slightly backwards is because I don't really want to encourage anyone to get this corner. If someone goes behind me, it's going to be a problem. But if I can prevent somebody from moving back there by slowly moving slightly back there myself, then that's a great spot for me. Now, I don't want to go all the way back there because I want to have proximity to these guys. If I have a long way to go to challenge these guys, they're going to get a lot of land, and I have the risk of being trapped behind these guys, and they can just be bigger than me and take me out. So once the game gets started, you can see this green bar we talked about filling up. This is going to be when the game starts, and the game launches. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what we're doing at the beginning of the game. There is this white bar that's going to be filling up vertically. You can see it right there. That is what's called a cycle. You want to expand once per cycle. I like to do around the first cycle 20%. And what I'm looking for is to get this bar about 60% all the way up before launching my attack. And the reason for this being is you get a slight bonus to your troops at the end of every cycle. You'll be accumulating troops every tick of the cycle, but there'll be a slight bonus at the end. Now, the bonus is based off of two things. It is based off of your total interest and the amount of land that you control. So you can kind of cheese the system a little bit, get the best of both worlds by attacking right towards the end of the cycle. So there's our first attack. And then second attack, we're going to keep at 20%. And I do zoom out in this moment just to kind of keep an eye on, see if anybody spawned behind me, if there's any immediate threats I need to keep an eye on. So here comes the second cycle. We go to 20. And then the third cycle, we're going to move up to 40%. It's a little bit easier to keep an eye on because it's where this first number is going to be. You can see 909 down here. So third cycle is 40%, fourth cycle is going to be 40%. And this is a little bit of a judgment call, but typically if I have a little bit of space, I'll wait. And then from here, we're going to go into what's called the infinite growth phase, where you can see I'm clicking this button at the top. This says continuing your attack. Now this is your attack, how many troops you have dedicated towards it. As this white bar decreases, that's signaling that those troops are going to be running out and you're going to need more if you want to continue it. So I want to continue the attack and move out as much as I can, grab all of the free land that's going to be very cheap right now. Now you can see that I have a crown icon next to my name that indicates that I'm the biggest player on the board. It doesn't matter at the beginning of the game, but will be important later in the game. Now the second reason I want to kind of expand is not only to get very big, but also to have access to a lot of bots. Basically, how you attack at the beginning of the game is you lower your attack amount to less than 10%. 9 is maybe a little bit high, but it's okay. And you attack a bot when it full sends. So you can see that this guy has a 1,108 troops, so he is not full sent, but this guy has. So I'm going to attack that bot and just kind of play this game of whack-a-mole with all these bots that have thus full sent. And the reason why you expand so quickly and so rapidly is because you have a lot more options to attack bots. So it's okay if you miss a couple. You can see that I'm missing a couple here, but the more options you have of bots or being around bots, the better chance you're going to have of striking when a bot is full sending. If you pick a position where you're waiting on 2 or 3 bots to full send, you're going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit towards the game. Now you can see that I am moving in an area where I'm playing to my strength. I know I have the corner. So what I've been doing is pushing out into the west over here and then pushing out into the east over here. I'm blocking all of these bots behind me. And the reason I'm doing that is because then only I can get them at a moment of my choosing. Jump scare. No, quick editor's note. I forgot to mention 2 things that are important here. One is when you're attacking bots, you only want to be attacking 2 or 3 per cycle. You don't want to be overdoing it on that aspect. And 2, the amount of troops you're attacking with does not increase how quickly you're attacking. The only way that you can increase your attack speed is by controlling pixels. There's 2 boosts in the game, one at 60,000, one at 160,000. All right, back to regular Corgi. Now, the biggest thing to keep an eye on during this portion of the game is how much troops do your neighbors have? Are any of them saving up to a large amount of troops? Are they not expanding? If they are, you might want to slow down how much you're expanding for, because they might be gearing up to attack you. But you can see right now, I have a pretty comparable amount of troops to everybody around me. I'll definitely take that alliance, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then there you go. I'm off to a really good start. Now from here, I'm going to be saving up to my red interest. Now red interest is when this interest bar goes down to 1%, your numbers are going to turn red up here. Now an easy way to calculate this is you can see I have 58,000 pixels under my control. My red interest is going to be 5.8 million. Easy way to calculate, you add 2 zeros at the end. Now in this position, I have the crown, I have the most to gain, I have the most to lose. So there's not going to be a lot that's going to unwedge me from this position. So when we're looking at kind of decision making from here, we have to look at our threats around the board. So first off, Full Send doesn't have a lot of troops. He's probably not going to be a threat. No Sleep doesn't have a ton of troops. We have a little bit more, so he's not likely to attack us. He also borders a number of players down there who are could attack him. Now I can see right away that this player China is being overly aggressive and attacking somebody who's stronger than him right away. He also borders this guy I have a plan who has 600,000. He's just constantly decreasing his troops. So I immediately try and send a boat over. It doesn't quite go and attack him for all of this land. Thus, again, drastically increasing my chances of winning the game. And now I have to pay a little bit more attention to my neighbors. You can see this guy has a good amount of troops. This guy has a good amount of troops. If they went against me right now, I would lose the game. But they have a better target in mind than me, especially No Sleep. Full Send is a lot weaker and is going to get attacked very briefly. So I know that No Sleep is not going to join in on any coalition to take out the crown at this moment. And Plan is not going to be able to do this alone. So therefore, I'm safe to now save up to my red interest of 8.2 million. Now, an important distinction right now and a good gameplay mechanic is you can see that I could easily take out Full Send right now. The reason I'm not doing that is going back to border management. I don't want to border people that can take me out before I have a little bit more troops in my back pocket. My biggest advantage is currently my size. So if I was to take out Full Send right now, then I border another guy who's got 2 million. There's about 5-6 million right here between these 3 players, and they could quickly overpower me. So therefore, I'm going to back off and just say, hey, I'm going to save. And that's kind of how you get off to a good start, is most importantly keeping in mind of what is in everyone else's best interest. If you're playing, it's a lot like chess, where if you're constantly playing for your next move and not your opponent's next move, you're going to lose the game. Now, to advance this game a little bit, you can see that there was a Full Send over there. I'm still the crown. I'm advancing into the middle of the map, which we talked about is incredibly dangerous. In this position, though, I'm actually at a position of strength because, as you can see, one of the biggest players doesn't have an easy way to attack me. So from this position, I know the best thing I can do is strike people right now. So what I do is I see who's the second strongest player on the board. It's currently this guy. I'd immediately launch an attack into him. The longer I give this guy to kind of sit back and relax, the longer he has to try and build up communications with these two to then attack me. So even though he full sent me right there, it's fine. I'm still in a winning position. Now, when you do get full sent, as you can see right there, he sent all of his troops into me and I got pushed back. You never attack into it. You have what's called a defensive modifier, which means that it requires more troops to attack than it does defend. And attacking into him with his full send, I'm not going to be able to attack for like 13 million what he sent. It's much more efficient for me to just kind of wait it out. And when waiting it out, I do sacrifice this land to this guy, but it's going to take time for him to be able to build up to his maximum potential. So therefore, I can just counterattack him right away. So he's never going to get up to his red interest. He immediately knows that. He full sends, gives up. I immediately grab all of this land. And once you get to about 45% in red interest, you kind of win the game. Now, if you're playing from anyone else's position, not the crowns, once a player gets about to 40% or so, 42%, that's when you have to kind of start ganging up on the crown if you want a chance of winning the game. Now, one of the biggest kind of issues I see with a lot of players is they don't know when to give up on a fight. So let's say that No Sleep and More were fighting in this moment. The game is about to be done. If they can't settle their differences and then fight me collectively, then they're going to lose the game. Now, this is a slightly bad example of that, but there's plenty on my video or on my channel where you can see this live in action, where these guys don't actually have as much troops as they potentially should with their occupation because there's been 2 full sends in a row. But there is still a good enough chance that they could pull this one back, even though I have 46%, which is kind of pushing it. I'm not in my red interest either. So if all 3 of them attack me, there's a good chance that at least they'll do some damage. And if I make a mistake, there's a good chance that they can beat me. So this is a good example of what to do when you're not the crown. As you can see, the crown is rather big here. He's about 50,000 pixels than me. I'm Hunter x Hunter down here. And he has about 35% of the board. Then things are getting a little bit dire. So I need to rally everybody to attack this guy right away. Now, if you're the second strongest player in the kind of attack pattern of who you want to attack, typically the mantle of responsibility of launching the first attack falls upon you. You can inspire a lot more people to charge in if you signal that you're going to do it right away yourself. So I immediately launch an attack, and then I go over to the emoji wheel, which if we back up here just a second. I left click on the player, and then I go down here to the emoji, and then I click charge over here. If charge is not an option for you, if it's not available on this bar, which typically it is, you can click more here. This bar is going to be your most commonly used options. So I'm going to tell him to charge right away. I'm going to tell him to charge right away. And these guys, I'm going to tell in a different way. I'm going to left click on them, go up to this yellow symbol, left click on that, and then go over to Prussia, do the same. RSF, do the same, and then this guy do the same. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on the crown, and I hit that target market. So what that does is it tells everybody to attack this guy. You can see the messages down here saying everybody needs to fight this guy. And you can do this individually or with groups, but if you want to do it with groups, you just left click, bring up the yellow icon, and then before you tell anyone to attack, you left click and hit the yellow icon on the second guy, and then left click on your target, hit the target, and then everybody attacks. So I'm launching attacks, trying to inspire everybody to help fight against it. The crown is going to be fighting back against me. Right now, nobody has helped joining attack. Now, you may be saying, why did you attack when no one else was really bought in? Well, the thing is, if I didn't attack in this moment, nobody was going to, and I was going to lose the game regardless. But as you can see, I'm inspiring others to join in. Yura's joined in, even though this guy's finally joined in, even though he was the first one to say it. So now the numbers are quickly evening out. And if you take a look at troop numbers, I have 10 million. This guy's got 4. This guy's got 4. That's a lot bigger than 15 million. And if the other 2 join in, we'll definitely take them down together. So I just want to keep up with my attack style. Just being a little bit patient here. Launching counterattacks, trying to get up towards that same mark that we hit on, but it's not always a perfect science. Especially when he's not attacking me, I'm more free to launch that in a slightly suboptimal time. But basically, I want to keep the pressure up because he's about to take out Yura. So I'm going to keep attacking him, weakening him. And as long as others join in, then we're going to be just fine. You can see RSF is still attacking. Prussia has decided to go neutral. And now this guy's a little bit too weak to be any kind of use. I need to deprive the land of that crown and keep up that attack, making sure that goes through. So now, even though things look still pretty dire, the crown's got a good amount of troops. He's got 40% occupation. All is not lost. So I've saved up slightly to get back up to my red interest, which you don't have to do in these situations. Basically, I want him to be attacking somebody else besides me, so I skip the cycle and then continuously launch an attack into the crown. Now I kind of speed this game up here. You can see that the crown is slowly but surely falling off. Prussia's now gotten involved. RSF's gotten now involved. And I've closed the gap. I'm about 10,000 pixels behind him with help. So now people are going to be wanting to help me defeat the crown. I only need one of the two to continue attacking here, and my chances of winning the game are very high. And you can see the crown is getting a little bit desperate. He's attacking for a lot of troops in this moment, but I just kind of slow and steady this and start taking away the crown from him. So even though he's sending large attacks and kind of negating me getting the crown there, what he's really doing is depleting his troops. So it's a slight race to the bottom. If we kind of zoom through the end of this map, you can see that this becomes a little bit of a stalemate. He does full send me here through a boat. And when a boat full sends, why people do this is because it takes a lot longer for the full send to develop. If he full sent me all right now, I could easily counter it. It would all be dispersed amongst our common borders, but because he consolidated it all down here, it takes a lot longer for this to go through. But I continue to be patient here, knowing that number one, I still have the crown, and number two, that I could defeat these guys rather quickly, because even though they, like RSF has 129,000 pixels, his red interest is only 8 million, right? Or he only has 8 million troops, so I could quickly defeat him. And that's kind of how you play the end game a little bit. Now, to quickly highlight that emoji wheel, again, you left click on a player and then you go to the emoji, and then this will bring up your options over here. If you don't find the option you want, you can always click more, and we're going to quickly go through what all these mean. So this sword obviously means charge, as you use it when you're trying to get a player to attack another player. A boat signals a boat is in the water. Money can signal a lot of things. This typically means, hey, we're going to be friends, right? This is not really used. This is not really used. A peace is signaling at the end of the game saying, hey, we're going to peace out, which we'll talk about here in a second. Shield means defend. Yes, no, help. And then obviously these emojis you can use as will. Now, there's a lot more of these right here. Mine show up as letters. A lot of people's show up as flags, but it's never really worked for me. So I don't know if what happened there, but these are typically supposed to be flags. Now, when you're starting off at the beginning of the game and you want to signal who's going to be, you kind of want to start drawing your battle lines and say, hey, if it's looking like, let's say I want to push over to the west, but I have people in the south, you can left click on the player and signal, let's be friends. And so I'm going to ask him to be friends. If he accepts it, then there'll be a green icon at the bottom with that handshake signal. Now, he's not going to do it at this game because I'm role-playing on an island, so I can make sure to get the emojis. But that's a great way of saying, hey, this person's not going to attack me, at least for right now. Now, the biggest fallacy people have with this green icon is they think it's a forever peace treaty that we're always going to be friends. The biggest thing you can keep in mind in this game is this in the other player's best interest? What's in everyone's best interest right now? And that doesn't always mean that if you have an alliance with someone that it's going to be in their best interest to work with you. So you always have to keep that in mind, that just because you have that temporary alliance, that truce, that peace treaty, that it's not a forever pact, and that if, like, let's say your friend was really big, then, you know, and it doesn't work out with this guy and he has a better chance of taking you out and winning the game himself, he's gonna use that to his advantage. You can see Glock right now is going down in this moment, but always use that peace treaty as a temporary thing. No, it's very temporary until things develop. Like, I'm sure 657 and Niba had a peace treaty, but 657 weakened himself up trying to attack here in the middle, grab a little bit extra land, and now quickly is getting overwhelmed. Now, when you're starting off in the game, you can slightly get confused, especially if you don't have the balance above the name as to who is a bot and who is a player, because they can often have similar amount of troops. Bots will always have an underlie below them and have kind of a historical name like Kingdom of Cyprus, Kingdom of Fiji, etc., etc. Now, let's kind of advance this game a little bit. I'm going to show you what happens when a player leaves the game. So you can see that this player right here is currently a player, but he is getting attacked rather frequently, and now has left the game, and now his name is underlined. Now, one important thing to keep in mind with this is when a player leaves the game, it'll act differently than a regular bot. It'll key in on attacking the strongest player. So if that's you, that is going to be a problem that you have to address immediately. If it happens early in the game, it can be a lot more detrimental than later in the game. Right now, you can see that I have 12 million down here. He has 4, so it's not going to be a problem. But at the beginning of the game, when the bot has like 2 million and you have 3, it's going to be a problem. It can really hinder your game. Now, I'm going to give you a couple higher end strategies for you to use. But again, the best way to learn how to play this game is to play it a lot or watch a lot of videos. I have about 1,000 videos of this to kind of guide you through my thought process of how do I make decisions. But This is one thing that I use pretty often at the beginning of the game, which is a slightly higher level play. Is I move to the edge, as we talked about. This is kind of my favorite area on Caucasia. I move right here. Now, purposely leave a spot back here, knowing that I'm going to be positioning myself to trap this player behind. So this is a slight bit of a gambit, but what I'm trying to accomplish here is to get much bigger than this guy over here and then push into him. And if I accomplish that by getting much bigger and then pushing into him, then I'm the only one that can really benefit from grabbing his lands. So as you can see, this one develops a little bit awkwardly, where now there's two players behind. And this is a great little thing. So typically when there's two players behind over here, they're going to be mad at each other for ruining their quote unquote spots. And they're going to be more likely to fight each other. Where I'm just going to be casually building up troops behind over here using that 20-20-40-40 starting strategy that we talked about. And also, just as an FYI, there are other openings. Our Discord has a link to a lot of them. I find that 20-20-40-40 can accomplish a lot, and it's a little bit easier to learn here. So I get off to a pretty good start here and immediately start pushing for land using that infinite growth phase we talked about. And what my goal is going to be from this position is I have two goals to accomplish. One, I want to push over here and make sure that this guy is really weak. If I leave him a lot of land and he's only going to have me to attack, well, then that's going to be a little bit tougher for me. The second goal I have is going to be pushing up north and grabbing more land. You can see right now I have the crown and I'm pushing up north really aggressively while also making sure that I'm depriving this guy of land. So I've worked that pretty well, to the point where this guy's not really going to be able to challenge me, at least for right now, or at least on his own. He's going to have to convince these two players over here to fight me. Now, that is a possibility, but is it in their best interest to fight me at this moment where these guys might then turn around and fight them? Probably not. So as this game progresses, I start saving up to red interest, and I see that this guy has a low amount of troops. So I'm going to boat over there and just immediately cut off this guy, further trapping him in the corner, giving myself a tremendous advantage. And now you can see that he's really mad at me, but he can't do anything about it because I have more than twice his troops, and I'm just going to keep pushing over here and ignoring him for right now. And as we continue to keep ignoring him, then it becomes, hey, this guy's really weak. I can attack him and only get his land. Now, it is a little bit unfortunate that Dimcum attacks me, but as you can see what we talked about earlier, he's not immune to attacks from others, and Jimmy John attacks him. I kind of do a risk analysis of saying, hey, is this guy really worth taking out? Yeah, he's kind of worth taking out, but at the same time, this guy has no troops over here. So I just say, I'm going to attack you and just leave you for now. A little bit of a dangerous to leave him in this moment, but I quickly take out this guy and then this guy. And now you can see this guy's still trapped in the corner. He has no chance of defeating me. I have 6 million versus his 1 million. I get all of this land to myself, and there's nothing he can do about it. Now, typically, I would launch this kind of strategy, launch this attack on player 42 much earlier, but it is a rare instance where you have very weak players over here as well to jump on. So now I get all of that land, and I'm in a great position to win this game. And that's kind of how you accomplish the trapping a player in a corner. Now, another kind of in-game strategy you can use is, we're on YouTube right now, you can watch this video, it's called the Corgi Gambit, you know, narcissist over here. But anyways, it's an in-game gambit you can play. So in this situation, it is me, Botland, and Germany over here fighting down the crown. We all have buy-in to fighting down the crown. Now, as we kind of progress this game here a little bit, you can start to see that I'm starting to get pinched off here. Even though I'm the crown and people are still working with me to fight down the crown, it's no longer in my interest to continue this on because the cost-benefit ratio to me is not worth it anymore. There's no way I'm going to be able to squeeze around Botland and grab more land than him. I'm going to lose a lot of land to Germany. If I continue down this path, even if I won this, I'm going to be in the middle and the crown, which is going to make me lose the game. So what I do instead is I knock this guy down to a similar amount of troops that this guy has, and these two have been fighting. And since they are fighting and they're similar size, they're going to stalemate. I don't need to be involved in that anymore. So I immediately turn on my former ally Botland, knowing that I have time between these guys down here, and start whittling him down right away. It's a little bit of a backstab, if you will, but the game is ultimately a free-for-all. There can only be one winner. So I continue to knock down Botland, and one thing that's really driving this decision is knowing that Germany is really interested in this land. And why is he interested in this land? Well, there's a lot of Africa over here. So he's probably tunnel visioned on grabbing this land and probably hasn't even noticed that I'm the crown nor attacking bot land. He goes, hey, those two are fighting up there. I'm going to fight down here. But the difference in troops is these guys are similar and I have a distinct advantage. So I'll go on to win this battle against botland. As you can see here, I've whittled him down significantly. I've become incredibly strong. And now it doesn't matter what happens over here because Germany is now looking to be saved. He's going, hey, bud, save me. So I return to attacking player 88, buying this player's loyalty and winning the game. So we can just kind of go all the way back here and see that in fact we did win the game, and then we took him out just for style points at the end. Now this is a game I had to dig in the vaults for. This is what's called a peace snipe. In order to end the game, you have to go down to the bottom right and click more and then call for peace. You can only call for peace if you're in the top 10, and you'll get a vote based off the proportion of land that you control in the map. Now in this situation, I am the crown, but Norris is still fighting me, and I'm starting to lose land. Player 299 is also starting to fight me. So I'm in danger of not being able to win this game. I'm outnumbered completely. So what I see, though, is that someone at the bottom right is voting for peace. Now, Norris has the crown, so I'm going to launch a big attack there and peace him out right there. So if you can get in a situation where you can trick someone into voting for peace and then full send them for their land or get that extra attack in there to get the crown, you will win the game. It's called the peace snipe. It's a very cheeky strategy. If you get the chance to use it, I highly recommend, because ultimately this game is a free-for-all. But with that, I hope you have a little bit better understanding of how to play the game. I'm excited to hear about your guys' victories. If you have any questions that you don't feel like I answered, put it in the comments down below. I'll be addressing as much of that as possible. If you kind of want to learn along with us, again, we stream every day at 10 a.m. It's a great place to kind of learn in a low stress environment. But as we do start to wrap things up, it is 3 in the morning right now for your boy. This took a lot longer to put together than I thought, so please leave a like. And if you enjoy the content, hey, subscribe for more. I put out a video every day. But for now, boys, I will see you in the next one.